we're going to talk about Google Local Services ads because I opened up the right ones now. Awesome. So we're going to start off with talking about what Google Local Services ads are, where they're active, how they work, how you can get on board with them if you haven't already, what it takes to get the best results out of them, and how you can take advantage of a high quality lead at a low cost per lead, and really maximize that return on investment. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Aline. I'm the co-founder of Roofer Marketers. I'm now the general manager of marketing services at Job Nimbus. I am the host of the Roofing Success podcast. I'm the marketing coach for Adam Bensman's Pitch Pro movement. We are an ICO Roof Pro partner. We're a Limitless Roofing GPO partner. I've written 2 books on digital marketing for roofing contractors. I speak at a bunch of events. Enough about me. This is what we do every day. And in what we do every day, we focus on 3 core principles, and it's outlined very well in our book, The Best Known Roofer. If you'd like a copy of that book, go to roofermarketers.com. If you are a roofing contractor, we will just send it to you for free. If you're not a roofing contractor, you could go to Amazon and buy it for $13.99 or whatever it is. So our first core principle is to maximize the opportunity to generate a lead for your business. And in that vein of thought, it's like having multiple lines in the water, right? To create consistent lead flow in your business, you need multiple sources of lead flow. A lot of times when we're starting out a business, we're kind of relying on that word of mouth, maybe door to door. But then as you build your business, we refer to it as the marketing stack. So you want to start stacking your marketing opportunities on top of each other. So maximizing opportunities. And one of the things that you should stack in are these Google Local Services ads. The next core principle of ours is to maximize your brand impressions, because the more people see your brand over and over again, the more likely they are to trust you, the more likely they are to buy from you. And then our third core principle is to maximize the conversion rates around all of these marketing channels. There are things that you'll need to do. Someone mentioned Home Advisor leads. If you're buying Home Advisor leads, there are certain things that you're going to need to execute on to maximize the conversion rates of those deals. One of my friends, Chuck Toki, one of the best sales trainers in the roofing industry, talks about how he had when he was at Able Roof, Mr. Roof, they had a system in place to work Home Advisor leads, like a very strategic system, because they're different than a referral, right? You can have a system in place to maximize the conversion rates on referrals, but that's going to be your highest converting lead, right? When we start getting into digital marketing leads, start getting into buying leads from Home Advisor and different things like that, you have to, the consumer has a different mindset. So you have to do things to make sure that you're maximizing those conversion rates. The first thing is speed to lead and being in contact with them quickly. Let's talk about what Google Local Services ads are. So Google Local Services ads are the 3 ads in a horizontal fashion at the top of the Google search results when there is a search with commercial intent. What I mean by commercial intent is that there is in the words that the person typed into Google knows from the data that they've collected over the years that people that type in these words, they are in buy mode, right? So when someone types in best Minneapolis roofers, right, that has strong commercial intent. When someone types in best color roof for a blue house, that does not have high commercial intent. So one of the great things about Google Local Services ads is they only show up in searches that have high commercial intent when people are in buy mode. The Google has their own tracking numbers on these Google local services ads. So you don't have to have call tracking numbers and things like that. It's actually discouraged to have a call tracking number behind their call tracking number. And what that helps you with, in relation to versus like a Home Advisor or a Thumbtack or Porch or Networks or some of these things, is that it is a person on the phone with your business with the call recorded. So if it is not a qualified lead, if it is someone looking for a service that you don't provide, if it's someone outside of your service area, if it's someone looking for work, if it's Home Advisor calling you to sell you leads, you can dispute it and get your money back easily. So Google has their tracking numbers on all of these ads. You also get a profile. So you get to fill out your profile and express your company's the best parts about your company. Your reviews get focused on here. And so why this matters, why it matters to be in Google local services ads, is that 87% of consumers search on Google when looking for home service providers, right? How many of you on, let's see how many people we have on. We have about 27 people on. Drop a 1 in the chat if you go to Google first when you're looking for something, right? For a local business, for a restaurant to go to, for an HVAC company. It's pretty hot in Minnesota right now, right? We're actually, about 90 to, high of 90 today. If my AC goes out, I'm going to Google, right? So lots of 1s in the chat. That's where people go, right? That's where we go. So that's why it matters. That's why it's important. It's the number 1 place that your customers are looking for when they need your services. So local service ads come up first in the search results, right? When there are those searches with commercial intent, they show up right there at the top of the page. They're the first thing that consumers see on mobile and on desktop. So on both, they're first. Google placed it above their Google Ads pay-per-click area, right? So they're placed above that. There is no higher intent, as I talked about, right? The commercial intent is extremely high on Google local services ads, but you must have a plan to win, right? You still have to have a plan to win. We call it, I like to say it's marketing, not magic, right? None of the lead sources that you can work on are magic. They're just marketing, right? So you have to have the other things in place to win with these. So how it impacts search, a study was done by a company called Bright Local. They're an SEO data company or an SEO tool company, an SEO tool. They did a study years ago. When Google local service ads are present, they got 14% of the search traffic on the page. Google ads, when local service ads are present, Google ads get about 11% of the traffic on the page. So Google local service ads and Google AdWords get about 25% of the traffic on the page when the Google local services ads show up. If Google local services ads are not showing, Google ads only get about 11 to 15% of the traffic on the page. So let's call it 15 on the high side. So Google knows this, right? Like Google has just extracted an additional 10% of the search traffic to its paid platforms, to its profit and loss statement, right? So they are very focused on that. The map section gets about 30% of the traffic on the page, and the additional traffic goes down to the websites that Google feels most relevant. That's why Home Advisor's there. That's why Angie's there. That's why Yelp is there. That's why Better Business Bureau is there. That's why GAF and OC and everybody is competing for those spots. But there are always a few local contractors that make it in that area too. So the map section, the website section, Google Ads, and local services ads. Great opportunity. 14% of the traffic goes there. So let's talk first about how you get set up. So you must complete the Google Local Services Ads application. Google's going to run a background check on you. They're going to check your licensing depending on the state that you're in. If your state requires licensing, they're going to have you upload your licensing information. They're going to check your insurance information. The background check is completed through Pinkerton Consulting. Once approved, and if you're active in your area, you'll pay on a per lead basis. So this is the power of it, is that you don't pay until, right? You don't pay until you get a lead. That lead is a phone call to your business or a direct message to your business that can be disputed if it is not if it's outside of your service area, like I said before, if it meets all of those criteria, and we'll go through some of those in a little bit, in more detail. We see on average about $30 to $60 a lead. There are some markets that are now pushing more in the $75, $85 range in the more competitive markets. I will tell you that this will not get cheaper over time. We have historical evidence that these things become more expensive over time. The greatest example of that is Google pay-per-click, right? Google Ads or Google AdWords. Google AdWords on a pay-per-click basis, were cents per click when they started. Then they were $1, $2 a click, then 5, 8, 10. Now in the roofing industry, for an exact match keyword in a competitive market, you may be paying, $85, $125 a click just for someone to click on the ad. That doesn't mean they called you. That's just for them to click. So in these Google Local Services ads, take advantage of the arbitrage of that lead right now. A more average lead cost in roofing in digital marketing, I mean, you may be in the $150 to $250 mark, depending on your service area and how competitive it is. We're talking about $30 to $60 here, right? That is a fraction of what the industry average cost is per lead on some other channels. So again, requirements for categories. For the roofing category, you do your business check. The background check is with the owner. Show your general liability insurance. Depending on the license requirements of the state, you may have to put that in place. And some of the leads that you can get are around repair, gutters. You can also add in, there are other categories. So if you do all exterior contracting, you can add in siding, you can add in windows. There are multiple options for Google Local Services ads now as they've been expanding. You then just set a weekly budget. Set a weekly budget. If you put in $2,000 per month, that would be $500 a week, $100 a day. Average cost per lead, let's say it was $50. Now, if you were able to spend your budget, as Paul kind of pointed out earlier, they weren't able to spend their whole budget, but once you hit your budget, if you do hit your budget spent, you go offline. So you want to make sure that you set your budget, and we'll talk about this a little later too, but you want to set your budget high so that you never go offline. So you may get a different number of leads from day to day, from week to week, but you'll never spend more than your weekly budget. And you have the ability to immediately dispute your leads once you receive a call. Now, if it is someone who is looking to replace the roof on their shed and you just are not going to do a job of that size, you'll still have to pay for that lead, right? You don't pay for qualified sales appointments, sales qualified leads. You pay for the lead, right? So what leads can be disputed? Leads can be disputed for solicitation. That's the biggest category, right? So anyone that was calling trying to sell you a product or service, you're not going to have to pay for that. If someone is seeking employment, like I mentioned, if the caller didn't discuss, business, right? If it's a personal call for some reason, Spam, if the call was like a pre-recorded. I know I get a bunch of these. You probably get a bunch of the pre-recorded, voicemail, that, phone calls. If it wasn't a human call, don't have to pay for that, right? This is much different than the traditional pay-per-lead sources like Home Advisor and things, and Networks and Porch and all these places, Thumbtack, that if that phone number doesn't work, you may still pay for that lead, right? If the email doesn't work, you still pay for that lead. So it's much different than a lot of those sources. If your location is not served, right? If your location wasn't listed on your profile and you decline the job, there's a recording of that. Google will look at the area that you've selected as your service area. If that job is outside of that, you could get that lead disputed also. If the service is not offered, right? So if you are listed under the roofing category and someone calls you up and they're like, hey, I need a new deck. Can you do that for me? And you're like, no, that we don't do that service. The call is recorded. So make sure that you verbalize that and then dispute the lead. And you have a high probability of getting that refunded to you or not charged. Feedback from average active users, like we mentioned earlier, lower cost per lead, higher quality, still get some price. You're always going to get price shoppers, right? So it's marketing, not magic. These aren't, guaranteed deals, but there's a solid return on investment on this. Let's call an average. Let's say it's $50, right? Let's say it's $50. If you closed 10% of those, that's a $500 customer acquisition cost, right? If you only closed 10%, but these are people on the phone with you looking for your services. So you should definitely have a higher closing rate than 10%. If your closing rate is 10%, I'm going to have to introduce you to some of my friends because that is a terrible closing rate. Beth asked, what if the person is already a customer who's just lost our phone number? Is that disputable? That's a tough one. I don't know, Beth. I would assume so, but your company isn't, if that customer Googles your company name, Google local services ads will not show up for that search. Your Maps listing is probably what's going to come up first, and your website. So it's probably not very likely that they would come through the Google local services ads. But if they did, I'm not sure. I would think so. If it was, I would make sure that it gets verbalized on the call. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, hey, thanks for calling back. I know that you're an existing customer, blah, blah, blah. Right. So that on the call, the person responsible at Google for getting that dispute handled can listen and go, oh, that was not a real lead, right? They were looking for something else. So again, this is a no-brainer for most contractors, right? Show up at the top of the results where your clients are looking, only pay on a per lead basis, lower cost per lead than pay-per-click, higher quality than Home Advisor, ability to modify your budget and schedule, increase, decrease as needed. There's no reason that you shouldn't be signed up in this, right? So how do you get set up? Pretty easy. If you work with us, your account manager or onboarding specialist will be able to get you set up on that. So, or help you get through the process. But really, it's really easy. So there are companies out there that'll say, yeah, we'll set this up for you. It's a $500 fee or $1,000 a month or whatever it is. Just go to ads.google.com/local-services-ads, or go to Google and type in local services ads. It'll pop up right there. Nikki just dropped it in the chat. The link is there. It's easy, right? So go in, you fill out your profile, you upload your stuff, you submit for the background check, and you're good to go. So there's not a lot of, it's not a complicated process. William said Google local services are the calls that have the quick call from Google message right before connecting, right? I don't think so. They may be. I haven't listened to the whisper message because I don't receive those calls ever. Does anyone else know on the call here? Is there a whisper message saying calling from Google? Call from Google. Let's see, who was it? Yeah, Mark said or Paul, do you remember it, if there was a whisper message like that?
I don't think there was one when we were using it.
Yeah.
But they may have updated it because they were constantly updating it.
It's Google is
while we were
constantly
using
updating things. Mark, you said this is your number one lead source right now.
Yes.
Does it say call from Google?
It does not say call from Google. He may
Okay.
be referring to a Google answering service by chance.
Maybe, or it's spam. So there's always like, there's a lot of spammers out there that'll be like, call from Google. Yeah, better answer this one, right? Like, so, all right. And French fries. Sorry, I don't know what Ron's talking about in French fries, but all right. So good stuff, man. And so if you're not set up, man, go to Google Local Services Ads, get set up. Again, it's a very simple process. These screenshots may be the exact same, maybe a little bit outdated, but you go in, connect, check your eligibility, do this, you just move right through the process. Now let's talk about the rankings, right? So in the rankings, there's advantages and disadvantages of each of these opportunities that we were talking about before, right? There's Google local services. The advantages are that there's that high commercial intent. A disadvantage, another advantage is you could select the service area that you want to get leads in. You can select the lead types that you want. A disadvantage is you can't tell Google you want 100 this month and you're guaranteed 100 this month. There's a little bit of algorithm going on in the background to determine who gets in that top 3 spot, because in almost every one of your markets right now, there are multiple contractors signed up for this program. In some of the markets that you're in, there are hundreds of contractors signed up for this program. So in the rankings, Google will take into consideration the proximity to the potential customer's location, right? So even though you select an area far away, Google's going to take that into consideration. For an extreme analogy, if you're in Dallas and you're like, but I want, there's a hailstorm that hit Denver. Let me just select Denver for my local services ads. You're going to have a hard time with that one. Google's going to go, that you're too far away from this location. So your review and number of reviews is going to have a factor. I know this is challenging. We have a webinar coming up. Nikki, when is that? 2 months, I think, is our reputation webinar on how to build that reputation.
Yeah, reputation is on September 28th.
September 28th is the reputation. So having those reviews is the most powerful thing, that it's going to be extremely helpful in getting this. Because not just from Google's point of view, but also from its human psychology, right? To go with a company or call a company that has great reviews online. Your responsiveness to customer inquiries and requests is going to be extremely important. Your business hours have an effect, whether or not you've received any complaints. And in addition to that, Google is going to try to spread out your budget through that week. So if you have a budget of 300, let's try to make my math easy. Let's do $500, which would give you 10 leads in a week. In your business hours are Monday through Friday, not 8 to 6 or something, right? So we're only talking about 5 days a week. You have a weekly budget. That would give you 2 leads per day. So if on Monday you got 3 leads, on Tuesday, Google is going to show you less because they're trying to match your budget. So open up your budget, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later, but open up your budget. So how to win with these ads? You're going to dial in your profile, your service area, your budget. There is a lead management system that comes with Google Local Services ads. There is a lead management system that comes with Google Local Services ads. Once you get in, you have a profile. You could go and complete your profile, upload a lot of pictures, like make yourself look good to the end user, right? And then set your budget high. Mark your jobs as booked. There is a pipeline in Google Local Services ads. So it's new, booked, archived. There's one more in the middle there. But every time you get a new lead that is a qualified lead, mark it as booked. All of these things being involved, dealing with disputes, driving verified reviews, targeting an 85% book rate or better in the reporting area of the dashboard. These are the things that are going to be extremely important. So let's start with dialing in your profile. Set your budget, open it up. If you have the capacity, right? These are cost-effective leads. Put an outrageous budget in there. I've actually seen a contractor put in a budget of $1 million a week. It's outrageous. I don't recommend doing it, but he did. And he got a lot of leads. I would say I would put in at least $2,500 per week. That's where I would say. Now, I know that's kind of scary to some people. It's like, man, well, I can't afford $2,500 a week. Google, like Mark said, I think it was Mark that said something earlier, like it was Paul. We could never get them to hit our budget. It is very, very rare that Google gets to your budget. But I will tell you, if Google does get to your budget, $2,500, $50 a lead, let's say you have 50 leads now, you can always turn it down later and work those 50 leads, or, get some help, because they are the best, right? Mine is over 100,000 a week, Mark says. Have you ever hit it, Mark? Have you ever hit the $100,000 in a week? Or let me ask a better question. What is the most that you've been charged for a week? Might be a better one. Make sure to update your ad schedule. You want your ad schedule to be whenever someone is available to respond. So I know some people like to put 24 hours, but are you really answering the phone at midnight? Right? If you're not, don't put 24 hours, because Google is monitoring that responsiveness, and you will have a negative impact if you do not respond. If someone submits a message to you and you don't respond, Google is measuring that. Google wants to provide, their overall goal is to provide the searcher with the best user experience. So if you don't answer your phone, is that a good experience for the searcher, for Google? Of course not, right? So Google will start showing you less. If someone sends you a message through their platform and no one responds, Do you think Google should send you more of those? Probably not, right? So it's very important to get that speed to lead. So making sure that your ad schedule is set up properly, your business bio, selecting the right job types, setting up your service areas, updating your business hours, adding a lot of photos, using personality, right? Like get some personality in the photo. It doesn't just have to be a before and after. Your team, your trucks. Talk to Paul West on this. Have him come out and do a shoot for you. Who's on this? Can I provide local digital marketing to contractors or other businesses using? I'm in Southwest Florida. Perry, I don't know what you mean. Are you trying to manage this for someone? Like you would provide that as a service? I don't know exactly what you mean there. Other businesses using these techniques. I think it would be scammy to do this as a service, because you can assist with it, maybe like if you're answering the phone and dispositioning the leads and helping, but it's not like there's not active management of this. So I think that would be I think that would be pretty scammy to do. Just my opinion. Now let's talk about marking your jobs as booked. So in the upper right-hand corner, when you go into a lead in the pipeline here, you need to click mark as booked, right? Google your responsiveness. So let's look at it from that perspective of providing the searcher with the best user experience. They show your ad, someone clicks on your ad, they make a phone call to you, you're responsive, you answer the phone. What is the next best thing that shows Google that you were the right company to call? A booked appointment, right? If you book an appointment, if you book a home visit, if you book an inspection, if you're going out to that customer's home to provide them with a service, or at least to get them an estimate, you're the right company to call, right? That means you are the right company to call. So in doing that, you're telling Google, we're the right company, we're the right company, we're the right company, give us more of these. So make sure that you're doing that. Archival non-converted opportunities, make sure that you're actively participating in Google's dashboard, that you're utilizing Google's dashboard. Deal with disputes. Like we talked about, you won't be charged for disqualified leads outside of your area, not a service you provide, and all of those other things that we had talked about. There is a little dispute button. I've seen it more and more, and maybe people that are using this can attest to it. Is I started seeing like Google, it says this lead has not been charged. So like they're not even charging you right away. Like Google is filtering it themselves now. It's like they're listening to the calls beforehand and just not charging for a lot of them based on the conversation that's being had on the call. And so disputing is what you want to do, though, and that you don't want to waste any money, right? So making sure you get in there and dispute those leads. Now we want to drive verified reviews. Okay, everyone knows their Google Maps listing, right? Their Google business profile used to be called the Google, or they're just your Google business profile, where people leave you reviews on Google. Those reviews will carry into your Google Local Services ads account. So the more reviews you have on that, on your Google business profile, on your Maps listing, the more reviews you'll have in your Google Local Services ads account. But Google Local Services also has a verified review process. Once you get through the booked appointment, now you can request a review through the dashboard. So if you get a review through the dashboard, you may find that, and this is kind of a strange thing that you may encounter, is you'll look at your Google Local Services ads and you're like, oh, I have 55 reviews there, And then you look at your maps listing and you're like, oh, I have 50 reviews there. What's going on? Those are the verified reviews. So the verified reviews stay in your Google Local Services profile. They don't show up on your Google Maps listing, but your Google Maps listing does, those reviews show in your Google Local Services ads. So it's kind of a strange thing, but make sure that you're getting verified reviews. Now let's go back to that, providing the searcher with the best user experience. You answered the phone, you booked a home visit, and you got a 5-star review, and it's all tracked through Google's system. Google tracked it all along the way. They listened to the phone call. They saw that you booked it. They sent the request through their system, or you initiated the request, but it was sent through Google's system. That is the clearest explanation to Google that you are the right company to show in these ads. So always provide great service so you get great reviews. Leverage the dashboard, enter the name, the email, hit the request review button, and go from there. So you'll be able to see them on there as Google verified job and the lead type that is that it got submitted under. So Google verified job, it tells, now it's an additional psychological factor for people looking to, oh, this is a verified thing, this is verified. So you could see those as you go into that. The next thing we want to do, I told you that booking rate is extremely important. Target an 85% or greater booking rate. You can see in the graphic here, if you go to your reports section in your dashboard in Google Local Services ads, this is what you'll see. And it'll show you the leads that you've been charged for, the budget that you've spent over a specific time frame. So you could just select like the month of, and then it'll show you the booking rate there. That booking rate is calculated on how many you moved to book job, right? So mark them as booked, get that booking rate, at least get it above 85% at all times. Keep it above 85% at all times. So we talked about how to get more of these, right? We want to buy as many of these as possible. Open up your budget. Expand your service area. Keep your service area as wide as you can. Keep the lead types that you are requesting as open as possible. Keep your ad schedule in line, your business hours, make sure that you're closing out every lead, booking them, archiving them, requesting reviews all the way through. And that's going to give you that verification, that back to Google, you are the right company to call for that. So if you're a client of Roofer Marketers or Job Nimbus, you get with your account manager and let us know, and we'll help you set this up. If you have trouble, I doubt if many of you will have trouble. It's ads.google.com. And so put the tracking in place, gauge ROI. Let's open it up for any questions. So feel free to unmute or ask in the Beth asked why we always request reviews, but some are not verified. Why not? Beth, are you always asking through the Google Local Service Ads dashboard, or are you sending a request separately sometimes? What my first guess would be that they end up going to your Google business profile and leaving the review instead of going through the link that was sent through Google. That's one of the reasons that I would think they don't get marked as verified.
Correct, because we're not using the local service ads yet. Okay.
Got it. Yep. So that's why they're not verified. Yep. So once you get set up in Google Local Services ads, when you complete a job through there, that's when you'll get those verified, the showing that they were a verified customer. Let me check the chat, see if anyone else has any questions. How do you handle bad reviews? This is truly unwarranted, unfair. Man, bad reviews are tough. There are, okay. The worst one to me, and I've seen this so many times, is I got cut off in traffic by this, and your truck is wrapped. So they like go to your Google business profile and they leave something, the first thing you can do is dispute it. If it was a real customer, you're going to have to eat that one. And the best way to handle a bad review is to give a professional response. Make sure that you respond to it. Because from a psychological profile, if I see a bad review and there's no response to it, it doesn't look good, right? If you if you are having a hard time with a calm head in writing a professional response, I recommend ChatGPT to write that response for you in a cool and calm, collected way, because I know that it can be very frustrating at times. People really leave unfair reviews sometimes. And so provide a professional response and then bury it. Go get another, 50, 100 reviews, good reviews, and bury it. And if you have, let's just be a little bit, outside of things, like if you have 3 reviews and one of them is bad, that makes a big difference. If you have 300 reviews and one of them is bad, right? Whatever. So the way to handle it, Brian, to me, professional response, go get more. Can we move business profile reviews to local services? So they'll automatically pull them in, William. So when you get set up, you'll connect your Google business profile with your local services ads, and in that they'll connect them. So if let's say you have 100 reviews on your Google business profile right now, when you get approved for local services ads, you will have 100 reviews in that program also. Megan said, I missed this. Do verified ads help push your local ads profile? They do. So what it's telling Google, it's just giving that reinforcement to Google that you are a good company to show, right? If you answered the phone, you booked an appointment, and you created a 5-star experience for this customer, that tells Google's algorithm something, right? Versus someone who's not answering the phone. Who should Google give more of these leads to? The person who doesn't even answer their phone half the time, or the person who answers the phone every time, books the job, and gets 5-star reviews? It's it's kind of a, common sense in their algorithm. So hopefully that was helpful, Brian. Great. Glad that was helpful. Is there a minimum amount of reviews to start ranking? There is not a minimum amount of reviews to start ranking, but William, you will have to look at at the competitors that you have in your market and have some self-awareness about that, right? Like if you're in a competitive market and there are, a bunch of contractors with 100 to 200 to 500 reviews and you have 15, and take a look at you have to be self-aware of that, hey, maybe not as many people are going to call me, right? Like it's just the truth. So you have to put the effort in, grind it out, look at the competitors in your market, determine what your review goal needs to be. Where do we go to get this set up? The link was dropped in here, Kyla. Nikki, Nikki or Don, if you could drop the link back in. How much does on-page SEO affect this? 0, iPhone. On-page SEO has no effect on your Google local services ads. William says, I'm in the DFW. A lot of work ahead of me. Yes, sir. DFW is so the DFW is actually the first market in the country that got Google local services ads in the fall of 2018. I've had conversations with a couple of contractors down there that were some of the first in the market. and my goodness, did they crush it on these things. But you know, you're in the DFW, so there's a lot of competition. So you got to step your game up, right? Iron sharpens iron. You're competing with a lot of great companies in your area. You know, do your best. So if you want, Don is on the call. Give us a call directly. Go to roofermarketers.com, get a copy of our free book, and tune into the Roofing Success Podcast. We are the #1 podcast in the roofing industry. We are in the top 200 podcasts on Apple in the business marketing section. So not just in the roofing industry, we are a top podcast altogether. We got as high, we were as high in the charts as like 92 recently. So really proud of that. William said that, yep, that's why he's here. All right. So yeah, if you need anything, if you have any more questions, feel free to type it in the chat. Feel free to unmute. Be happy to chat with you. Be happy to answer any questions. If not, we'll let you get an extra 8 minutes back.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We had our account set up in 2019, and recently I'm trying to figure out how to generate more leads through our LSA accounts. Somebody told me that, hey, because your account is so old, or was part of the early rendition of LSA, because Google has advanced so far since then, they might be throttling it because of that, and you should probably just set up a new account. Have you heard that, or does that make any sense?
So what would make sense to me is that the only part of it that would make sense to me is that if you kind of left it stagnant and didn't use it much, then they would potentially, you'll have to kind of make them know that you're active again, right? Get in there, update your profile, start adding pictures on a regular basis, you know, making sure that you're marking leads as booked. Do all of the things that I said. What market are you in, John?
Pennsylvania.
What part? Philly, Pittsburgh, which
close to Harrisburg, so like south central.
Okay.
East.
Yeah, so not a huge metro area. You should be able to pop back up, but just continue to do these things that tell them, hey, we're here, we're the right company. Maybe go back through and start requesting some reviews from the old customers that you closed jobs on through this, and get active in it as much as possible. There really shouldn't be a reason that you have an old account and Google didn't kind of update it along the way. We have clients that have been doing this for, nearly 5 years now, in the DFW since 2018. So, and they're still working. So, that doesn't sound like a good explanation to me.
Cool, thanks.
Megan, thanks, and so informative. Thanks for offering this. No problem. No problem. Our next webinar is going to be around social media and building an organic social media presence and creating a framework to how to create video content, how to schedule posts, how to know what to post. So jump on that. That'll be our July webinar.
July
27th. All right. If there's no other questions, have a great day.